Welcome back, everybody. For those new to the stream, my husband and I are working on a game in a game engine that we built by hand in C++, and this will be our first commercial game project. And the last couple of streams, and probably the next couple too, I'm working on the level design for the entrance to a dungeon. But this evening I'm going to start off with a code review of my husband's. So oops, let me get YouTube going again. Hold on a minute. There we go. So he's doing some really heavy lifting for the last month or two. He is working on the condition resolver and the effect resolver for our cards. We're making a deck builder game, a multiplayer deck builder game, and there is a lot to figure out as far as so cards can have multiple effects, and those effects can have targets, and those effects can have conditions, and how you get those to resolve, especially because those effects can chain into other effects. And I had begun a condition resolver class and was working. Hi, Font Extra 08Y. Is it your first time on the stream? Welcome. So I had made my own pass at a condition resolver, and it was functional, but had some limitations. And so he's been going through and making a system for this. Will be the hardest part of the game, for sure. The hardest part of it. Oh, excuse me. Of the game dev for the game. So this is one chunk of the work. So I'll be taking a look at that today. And if I get finished here, let me make it a little bit bigger. If I get finished tonight, I will carry on working on my level here, which I'm hoping to. I think the first thing I'm going to do tonight on this level design is actually start importing some of these things into Substance Painter and doing the baking, and then actually pulling them into the game to see if my poly count estimates are right. Hi, I am from the United States, from Minnesota. Where are you from? Okay, so the easiest way to do this. I've already pulled his changes down, and I've built. So I think I'm just going to go file by file. So let's look at effect context here. Welcome, Anjack the Mage. Yeah, we are doing a code review this morning, or this first half of this stream. It has been a very long day for me. I don't know how articulate I'm going to be today. It is release week at work. But I am reading through my husband's MR. He has been working on the effect resolver because we're making a deck builder game. Hi, Ahmed Zaki. Welcome to the stream. Target scope. Okay. Hi, welcome to the stream. I'm just JD. That is cool. You and your husband work on the same project. It is super cool. I agree. It's definitely one of the coolest parts of my life. All right, effect handlers. So these are the stubs for the different types of effects. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's look at effect results here and see what those are. Here we are. Yeah, it is C++, C++ 26. And then we built our, this is the game that we're looking at here, but we built the game engine that is built on top of in C++ as well, starting in about 2018, 2019. And then I've gone through many iterations of the renderer, but it's currently written in Vulkan in a library called Diligent Graphics or Diligent Engine, which I highly recommend. I will pass your compliments to my husband. He is a very good C++ programmer. My mission is to always try to find something wrong with his code, and I very often fail. If you guys see anything wrong with this code, let me know. I'll finally get him. Okay, so these are all the handlers for the different types of effects we're going to have. That makes sense to me. Let's look at the issue. Yeah. Makes sense to me. Okay, so far so good. I'm understanding what he's added thus far. All right, this is the big one. Using constructs for even, Oh, so I'm just, JD says, do you guys have day jobs as programmers? Currently I do, currently he does not. He stays home with our son. But we both have had jobs as programmers in the past. Hi, Mika. Welcome back. we are starting off with a code review today. My husband got the effect resolver both mostly in, but also some of it's stubbed in, so I'm taking a look at that and just trying to get a grasp for everything he's been working on, what he's been building up to. So first part of the stream will be code review, and then second part of the stream I will be importing some of this stuff actually into the game so I can make sure that my estimates on polygon count and stuff hold up. Okay. Triggers don't resolve now. They go into buckets based on the specified. Okay, so who calls resolve effect? Okay, who calls evaluate chain? Oh, I see, okay. Okay, so we call play cards. Get the cards. If we don't have an active chain. Okay. Then we make a new one. But if we do, then we get the last result. And if it's that we're waiting on input, yeah, then we throw because we should have already set input. Okay, so we create a new chain here. In this case, if we don't have an active chain, otherwise we know by this point we know we have an active chain, so we want to evaluate it. Passing in player. If this requires input, we return. That makes sense. And if we have completed, then discard the card. That makes sense. Okay. And then we send that over the network. Okay, so now that makes sense how we're calling it. So let's get into effect resolver. Okay, so we'll call this if we create a new chain or if we already have a chain in progress. Did we have a lot of comments there? Oh, are you actually not being sarcastic, Dan Jack? I can never tell because we actually do have a lot of let's find one. No, it's in the dictionary classes. Check this out. Okay, let's find the folder. Where are ya? Oh, I've moved stuff around recently. Where are the desk classes now? Huh. Oh, here, look at this. Oh, I did not sneak in the arrow yet. I have not, unfortunately. I haven't even told them about that yet, Galandible. Welcome back, by the way. Comments are like garlic. You can never have too much garlic. Someone, I can't remember who it was, someone said, this is too many comments. Why do you comment every line of code? But this is an appropriate use of comments in this case because we have fundamental types that the entire game drives off of, and they are all in these state classes. But yeah, I don't think I have anything controversial to say about comments. I'm pretty much in line with the general wisdom on comments, and for those that are beginning to programming, general comment wisdom seems to be comments should be sparse. Your code should be self-documenting as much as possible, but if you do have a comment, it should explain the why, not the what. And I think I'm pretty much in line with that. So, Galanable, was that code that you were looking at with the arrow? I can't remember now what the context was, but I have to share this story with other people because let's find it. Somewhere in the wild. Let's grab the alt code for it. Somebody saw, Galanable saw, was it Claude that Claude, I feel like Claude wouldn't do this anymore these days. But oh, there we go. Let's find not an angle bracket. Let's find there we go. My dear friend Galanable saw one of the You know, that is kind of hard to miss. I wish I did C++ for my day job for a variety of reasons, but I would absolutely love to throw one of these in there. That's magnificent. I can't believe I forgot to tell my husband that I'm telling him that as soon as I see him tomorrow. Amika says, I am solo in my game. I don't write comments, but I have a good standards document, so I do not need to clean up too much after short vibe coding sessions. That's nice. We don't have a code standards document. And we've definitely drifted in our standards over the years. Sometimes we are really into block comments, like, or block style programming. So like this. I've been doing a lot of this lately because I have a lot of patterns with mGUI, and I find the code easier to read if all the equals are aligned. And so we do that sometimes. We've even aligned, like, we've had our semantics drift over the years. As far as, like, do you pass things by pointer, or do you pass them by reference or constref, and why? That's drifted. We've had a lot of drift. And so a standards document would be nice. I also don't have a linter. A linter would be very nice. I've never set one up. And it's because, for those if you're asking why, because I can't figure out how to do it in VS Code. I'm using MSVC for my compiler if that helps someone, if they feel inspired to give me instructions on how to set up a linter in VS Code with MSVC, I would be very happy. All right. So going through effect resolver. So we figured out resolve effect gets called by the evaluate chain for each effect in the stack. That I'm familiar with these now, then that makes sense. And what do we do? Oh, we pop it right here. There we go. Okay, so we pop for each stack on the chain, or each effect in the chain. As we evaluate it, we call resolve, switch on the result, and then end the chain. What does this do? And what do you do? Okay, I'm going to need to familiarize myself with the effect table here. Okay, that makes sense to me. And Jack was saying I like to write my comments in JS doc style so they show up in tooltips later. Yeah, we have some Java doc style comments. Where can we find one? Yeah. Mika has high level architecture in Blender. I bet. Clang format from other projects. I feel like we even have a Clang format file in here, it just never works. Although I literally only recently got IntelliSense to work. It was because down here somewhere, I was pointing to the wrong configuration, so it just wasn't, it didn't have the right compiler set up, so it just wasn't ever working. I'll look at getting Clang format. And so does Clang format work with MSVC? Because I don't have Clang. And agreed with the rendering pipeline. That was the hardest part. I haven't worked on my renderer in a long time, but that was the hardest part of it all, is because I can't keep it all in my head. So I'll start working on heading off in a direction and then I forget, oh yeah, wait a minute, I fundamentally can't do that because I'm not set up here and this, and then I just go around and around and around. And especially with working with descriptor sets in Vulkan, that was an absolute disaster. I've rewritten my descriptor set implementation many times now, and it's always bad. Hey there, Tanyan, welcome back. It does for IntelliSense. Okay. Wait. No, I was wondering if you're probably not answering my question. You're probably answering a different question, but I was wondering if Clang format works for MSVC, but if Clang works for IntelliSense, then maybe it does. If you have, I don't really get how that works. Okay, carrying on here. All right, so setting the target, let's look at that now. Okay, so we get the context of the specific player and what is in there. And effect context has chain, target, and trigger registry. Okay. And we assert that we are not waiting on input, and then we set our target. I'm a little interested here because I would assume that setting target would be done in response to having input pending, because we'd be waiting to see what target the player would select. Oh. Oh no, I just read that backwards. That is exactly what's happening here. We are saying we want to make sure that we are waiting on input. Okay, I can delete that comment. Sweet. Okay, that makes much more sense to me. Well, thanks, Larkendian. I'll look into it. Playing format's the way to go. All right, new chain. This is what we call if we don't already have a chain present. So we get the chain from the player's context. And we say if we want to make sure that the last result was complete and our chain stack is empty because we can't create a new one if the, yep, that makes sense. Okay. Effect resolver, new chain. This one takes in a span of effects. And okay, ownership of effects is something I'm not quite clear on yet. It's interesting to me that we're passing a span here. I would expect the effects to live in the stack of effects. Make a note to track that down. Okay, so let's, wouldn't the context only be effects? So let's figure that out. Who calls new chain with this overload? Okay, I don't think we have an example of that yet. Yeah, that's the card desk. Card desk. Okay, that's something I can ask about later. Let me go back to the context. Where did you live again? Okay, and the effect resolver owns a player array of effect contexts. And the effect context has a chain context, which has an effect stack. So what? Okay, so looks like these are trivial to copy, but they don't seem that way. Seems pretty big. Because if this is a vector under the hood and we're passing a span, then we're going to create a copy. I'm pretty sure because the span is non-owning. Okay. here. Okay, we looked at evaluate chain already. End turn, we make sure that it's empty. Okay, good with that class, except for that question. Okay, results of effects are applied server-side in game state, for example. Commands are queued to notify clients. For player context objects are kept so that effect chains may be paused or resumed while dealing with client input. Okay. So evaluate chain runs an effect chain that we knew. Expects have active chain to be true and get last result to not equal input pending. When input pending is returned, a command was queued, prompting a client for input, and execution of the effect chain is blocked. Okay. Client's eventual response should be sent to set target. Yep. That evaluate chain can be called again, to continue processing the chain. Yeah, okay. Set a client selected target. It must be called to unblock if evaluate chain returns input pending. Okay. I'm gonna look at the tests here while that's fresh in my mind. Okay, so this is just stuff we have to set up to get the game to start. So everyone gets to select a class. Oh, this is helpful to know because I needed to do something similar there. You're selecting an enemy, drawing, discarding damage, and triggered. Cool. Conditional effect, that's awesome that he's got that going. What is an effect data again? What's a variant? And it can be... Ah, okay. Just a struct bucket. So if health is less than 10, then we can draw a card. And then we can draw 2 cards. Cool. Oh, this is great. Step through one of these just so I can really see it go here. Okay, we want evaluate, chain, condition fails, complete. Oh yes, I made the mistake of putting my breakpoint 1 line too high in the unit test. Never do that. Okay, so we start with a player ID of 0. We modify that player's health. Just to set it to be -1. Then we draw a hand. And size is 3. We draw. Okay. Then we create a new chain. It's going to be the conditional draw, which is if your alpha is less than 10. And our health will be 29, so it should fail. And that completed because it failed. And this should be full. Awesome. Okay, we need to check game state to know that we should not have drawn a stone. Cool. What's going on here? Okay, so prompt all players. Let's go look at that. So before we would set all player phases to waiting on prompt, and now we would enqueue a server command to unset all players. Then instead we call enqueue prompt all. Oh, okay. That's just nicer. Easy enough. If you're ever doing merge requests or code review, then I recommend opening up the build, pulling the branch down, and just being able to step through it yourself. Takes longer, but it just makes things easier to understand. Okay, so we need the data dictionary, the deck manager, and the effect resolver. Because of the player turn phase, yeah, that makes sense. We're doing a lot in there now. So let's look in there. Player turn phase is a big class where a lot of the game logic happens. Yeah, so we're passing in new things now, so we have access to them. Then on continue. Let's look at you first. We looked at you briefly earlier. Oh, excuse me. So I think that on continue happens when we are no longer waiting on a prompt, when we've been returned from a prompt. No, on continue is called once every tick unless the phase has finished. Okay. Well, that's... I don't know if I like that name, but that's okay. We can talk about that later. Okay, so this is our every tick. So we want to switch and get the player phase regardless of if we've received a request or not. Okay, and then if we're waiting on a prompt, we continue. Needs to be able to complete all actions until the state is done. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay. So if the request is to imbue a card with Throat of Fate, we set it to waiting on prompt. Get the card index and out of bounds to make it possible for bad actors to crash the server. Yeah, kick them here or in request validator before we get here. Yeah. Then we imbue and in queue. If we've requested to play the cards, then we set him. Yeah, okay. And we respond to the prompt. Then we select. Okay, here's where we select the target. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. Good thinking. Okay, we looked at play cards already. Let's see what we've done with the command queue. Now we have enqueue prompt. I see. Just passing stuff through. Mika says on big PRs, I look at the dip in my favorite editor, Emacs. Way to humble brag that your editor is Emacs, Mika. I wish so bad that I was an Emacs developer. That'd be so cool. I can't remember if it was Vim or Emacs, but Cal tried to be a Vim or Emacs developer for a while. I don't remember which. I still rely on my mouse too much, though. I can't be. I have to first become fully keyboard, and then I could consider becoming a Vim developer. Okay, we've already looked at the test, so I think we're about there. Oh, we added some desks to our data dictionary, and then we have our mock handlers. We looked at those. Oh, it's so cool to just have this magically get done in your game while you're working on other stuff. Request validator test just has enqueue prompt now when needed. CMake. Awesome. Okay. First thing I see when I look at the comments is I regret choosing Emacs 20 years ago. It was slow at the time, and it is still slow, but it would take forever to relearn a new editor. I don't think it would. I would just claim the street cred. I feel like in any programming workplace, there's one Emacs developer, and it's always just the best programmer in the room. It comes with so much swag. Just if you're good at Emacs, which if you've been using it for 20 years you would be, but you can't pretend. People will see through you immediately to be a pretend Emacs developer or pretend Vim developer. I had to use Vim specifically in a programming class in college when we had to do, what was the operating system? Minix, I think it was called. And it didn't have any other text editor, it just had built-in Vim. And so we had to painstakingly, character by character in Vim, update our system calls, and it was a cool class. All right, so I think I'm going to experiment now with actually porting these guys into the game. So I've been very excited about my discovery of the multi-res modifier, but what I haven't done is actually try to export it, the low poly and the high poly version. So let's first, I think I'm happy enough with the leaves, so I'm going to make them all one. And then I'm just pressing Control J to join them into a single mesh and then renaming them. leaves. Okay. I'm not going to join them to the tree, though. I can handle those as two separate meshes. And I'm also operating on the assumption that in my newest version of the renderer, I have alpha support. I know I do with particles, but I don't know if I do in my primary material, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so theoretically, nothing breaks when I apply all transforms. Yep. Okay, good. Then we're going to export. I don't want to export everything. I literally only want to export the tree. Export as FBX. And we want them to be in, I've been in the bad habit of just exporting things directly into my source directory and instead of keeping up a copy. And things can go wrong if you forget that you did that and then don't commit and undo your changes, and then your files are lost. Okay, let me try Galanable. Is it :WQ? Is that how you do it? Is that how you exit Vim? Because I remember :WQ, and I'm pretty sure that's right. Now I gotta Google it. How to exit Vim. Fuck yeah, it is. Look at that. Yes, I do. Was I able to do it the first try? Absolutely not. No. Nobody would just land on their first try with :WQ. Mika says Tannenbaum's OS Minix, the OG OS guy. But that's to save and exit. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not worthy. Tannenbaum's OS Minix? I think so. Let's look at what it was. I think it was this. It's been, what, 12? When did I graduate? It's been 13 years. I'm pretty sure this was our book. So it was this. I don't know. Who's Tannenbaum? Oh, it is. Look at that. Okay. So I want FBX unit scale and Z forward, Y up. I only want the selected object. And that ought to do it. Let's try it. Okay, it's thinking now. Hopefully it doesn't crash. We're still thinking. My tree is currently 25 million triangles. I've never tried to export an FBX with 25. Hey, it worked. Well, ostensibly it worked. Can you guys hear my fan kicking off? That was the strain that my computer had to do to export 25 million triangles. Okay, so now I think, theoretically, that I can just bump this all the way down. And that might be too few, but I'm going to try that now. And then export. Oh, I shouldn't have called it dungeon scene. I should have called it tree. FBX selected. Let's call this tree low poly. Okay, maybe. Oh, I found two cool resources I want to show you guys about. Ambient CG. So I've been painting details This also, the technique came from Grant Abbott, his YouTube videos. But Glendale, I'm trying to understand what you're responding to, but I don't remember. I don't have the context for it. But anyway. Oh, now I've lost my place. Shoot. What was I literally just about to do? Oh, yeah. So I've been painting details like this. I'm not going to go up one higher, but you can paint those details on. You don't have to carve them one by one. You can go to Ambient CG, which is just a free resource for PBR materials primarily. And you can come in here if you want to find a displacement map. You can just look for, type in rock, pick whichever one you want, and then go download the texture set and grab the displacement map. They're all totally free. And the other cool resource I got, if you need alphas, there's a website called freecutout.com, which just has, true to word, a bunch of different cutouts. Just alpha PNGs. Okay, I'm gonna bump that down to the viewport again. Okay, so let's just, did we name that? Rename it? Dungeon entrance high poly. Tree low poly, no we didn't. Where's our FBX? Wow, look at the difference in kilobyte size. 163 kilobytes versus 546,000. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Substance Painter. You're doing a game jam right now, Blandable? Fun. I haven't done a game jam since the Pirate Software game jam, but I used to. My favorite event that I've ever been to, and I used to go all the time, was the global game jams back pre-COVID when they were still in person. They might be back in person again, but you just bring your desktop like you're going to a LAN party in the 90s. You bring your desktop and a sleeping bag, and you go to whichever location with 200 other developers, and you get locked into the location for the entire weekend, and you form a team and you make a game. And it was so fun. And ours was sponsored by Red Bull, and I think Red Bull and Papa Murphy's Pizza. And so there was, oh, I'm getting so nostalgic for that. That was so fun. Pizza and Red Bull, and you could bring your own snacks. And I don't think you were actually locked in because we went out to get dinner, but you just sit and work on whatever game idea for the theme that you wanted to do. Okay, should be good. I've already unwrapped the mesh. That is pretty darn low poly. I don't know if it's gonna bake correctly, but we're gonna try it. So this one I always forget how to do, but it's been a while. Bake mesh maps, I think that's it. Yeah. So output size. Let's try 2048 for now, because I really don't want to I don't want to have 4K textures. I'm hoping I can get away with 2048. That's what I'm going to be learning as part of this experiment is 2048 enough to show the level of detail that I need for the look. Okay, so then somewhere here, there's a way to upload the high poly mesh. I just need to find it. Aha. This button is very hard to understand that it means upload. Okay, so I've uploaded the high poly mesh on top of it. Mika gets a free asset pack every month from Epic, and then I have a giant Unreal Engine project that contains all those assets. Cool. Kit, is it Do they just give you 3, or can you pick 3 asset packs? All right, we're going to see if my computer can handle uploading. Okay, it can. How did that go? So we want to get rid of the red as much as we can. Without getting too big. That seems pretty big. Okay, let's try it. And I want all of them. Okay, let's see how long this takes. So what I'm doing is I'm going to bake all of these maps that you see here. So ambient occlusion, curvature, position, thickness, height, specifically normal and world space normal. That's what I care about. From the high poly down into the low poly version. Okay, let's see how well that worked. Not. Where's the front? Oh, yeah. I am not thrilled with that. I think my UV is screwed up. Yeah, that's, so they gave you 3 you can't pick, but after several years you have quite a huge collection. Yeah, I suppose that's super cool. What's the red supposed to be? So the red was, I can't exactly remember. Let's open it up. If I'm remembering correctly, so what you see with the blue and the red, you see the blue is spots where the high poly mesh is fitting nicely into your low poly mesh. Or it means it's either that or it is the okay, blue just is your high poly mesh. White is your low poly mesh or your original mesh, and then red is spots where they are not lining up. But unfortunately, what I don't like is how that UV unwrapped. So if we go back into painting mode, it seems to have avoided the roots entirely. So let's come back in here. Oh yeah, I did forget. Did I ever? Maybe I didn't even unwrap it. I forgot to unwrap it after I started marking the seams. It's, yeah, okay. So it's very unhappy with me because this is a trash UV map because I forgot. I think I stopped halfway through last night. Okay, so I really don't want a UV unwrap right now. What can we get away with if we just do? I'm gonna try that. UV unwrapping is my least favorite part of this whole workflow. Okay. And then let's make sure that that did not just break my painting, because it might have. No, because it's sculpting. It's not, we're not at the UV level yet. So we should be good. Okay. In which case, let's try to export again the high poly mesh. Let's make sure selected objects is shown. Tree high poly. Vindox says, sir. Hello, sir. Mika says 3D static model, skeletal meshes, textures, sound effects. Oh, that's really cool. I got a $3,000 asset bundle from a Humble Bundle for $20, but it's such a drag. If I made a company, first thing I would do is get a 3D designer. Yeah. Same. I always regret it if I skip proper UV unwrapping. I do too, but for some reason, not for some reason, for a very obvious reason, I hate UV unwrapping. I'm not good at it. It's boring. It never works out like I want it to. And so then I just YOLO it, and then I end up suffering through trying to like patch my shoddy UVs at the substance painter step like a fool. Okay, let's export the low poly again. I can't think of anything worse than UV unwrapping. It's especially for something like this, it's just horrible. There is one thing harder than UV unwrapping though, and that is animation. Although I enjoy animation. Animation is more rewarding and fun than UV unwrapping, which just sucks the entire time. Okay, so I'm going to just create a new one here from my low poly. Let's see if this is any better, just the default UV project. Smart UV project hasn't worked for me for so long. I don't know why I'm putting my hopes in it now. Bake mesh maps. There. Wow, look at the difference now. That's crazy. All right, let's see if that ends up any better. You know, I agree, Mika. Mika said UV unwrapping is not hard, it's just tedious. Animation is legitimately hard. Animation is legitimately hard, but UV unwrapping is tedious and also hard. Because I don't know what I'm optimizing for when I UV unwrap. I understand that I want to, from where I'm looking at any given time, I don't want to have visible seams, and that's it. But with something like this, how would you even UV unwrap it? And then I found that I got into substance way too early, and like generally it seems to be reasonably okay at handling blenders and my crappy UVs. My favorite part of this whole process is definitely Substance Painter. Oh no, that's worse. But it did get the roots this time. Actually, I think that's better. Except for this. Oh, wait. I might not even be able to see that though because of the leaves. Am I going to? Because that's one thing that I haven't figured out yet. My scene is going to be very... I can't freely move around in it. So will this be enough? So it looks... No, this looks like... I'm not gonna... Ugh. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to run it through... Actually, let me see it. Yeah, that is 2K. That sucks. I'm gonna run it through my whole process here and see what it looks like in game to decide if I need to actually do a better job UV unwrapping, because it looks a little janky here, but I think from afar with the leaves it might pick up okay. Okay, so let's see if I can remember how to do my world space normal here. Normal. So this will look very strange because I'm using world space normals in my material, in my shader, to pick up details here. So then I can hide this one for now. And then let's just pick a nice casual brown. So the trick to the effect that I'm going for, we don't want height. Okay, we just want base color here, and then here we just want normal. Okay. Oops, wait. The trick to the look that I'm going for is not to have too much detail in the diffuse map. And what did I do with the, I think I screwed up the world. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I wanted to put it in the world space. Yeah, that always looks super weird. That is okay. It will all work out for the best. Okay, and then then I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to add a black mask. And this layer I'm going to make green. Then I'm going to add it, right click and say add generator. And then choose, let's try like metal edge wear. Okay, and then invert. All right, let's just see where that gets us. So let's see if I still have my texture set. Normal base color. And we're in 2048. And we want to put them in tree. Go. Mika says, I've used an image of a real black hole for the eyes of my in-game character. I oriented the texture sideways during the UV unwrapping process, and it looks completely fine in the game. But I know the eyes are sideways, and it bothers me. I'm excited. Mika, how can I see this game you're making? Because that song was really cool. All right. So I just made a folder for the tree, so I'm gonna move them all into that folder. Okay, so now comes the fun part. We get to put it in the game. So I'm gonna get back into the master branch here. Okay, so to import an asset into the game, I grab, oh, and okay, you actually, the base color, I do not care about it being, oops, take my thumbnail from today. I don't care about the base color being 4K. I only want the normals to be 4K. So the base color can really be something like really, really low res, actually, because especially for this, because it's just tree. No, look at that horrible UV map. This is what not UV unwrapping gets you guys. I just need if someone has a good video on how to properly UV map, let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna take this from 12 megs, which, oh, I hope I can, I'm hoping that each scene will be small enough that I can get away with having 5, no more than that, shoot, 20 2K textures. I really should have done this math, but all right, let's I think you can be like that. That should be fine. Carry a JPEG or a PNG? PNG. Okay, then to import something into the game, I go into my manifests file and I find the kind of texture that it will be. And it's going to be just a diffuse texture. Oh, and actually first I take them and I copy them into my assets folder. Then I also need the low poly mesh. I no longer need the high poly mesh. Okay. Then I come to my manifest folder. And I specify that path. Then I have a normal map down here. And all of my UI stuff has to be normal map because of the color space that it needs to be in. Which might be a bug. I'm not sure, but I have a delicate balance of it working right now. Normal. Okay, and then we need the mesh. Okay, then I can come in here and run the converter. So this is running the converter tool that will convert all of those 3 assets into NCA style assets. Okay, and we are unhappy with something. What did you try to compress? Okay, the base color. Why are you unhappy with the base? Oh, probably because it's not power of 2. Let's fix that. Samika streams on YouTube and Twitch every day, and I occasionally make videos as well. I'm going to check you out. I'm going to go follow you. Do I ever use AI to help my work? Specifically, no, with this project. Talked about it on previous streams, but at work all the time. And I'm not anti-AI, but this project is my voices from AI. Then Mika, you've released several games on Steam. The last one is Ordi, The Rise of Clara. That game is free. I'm gonna check it out. Oh, the game is bad though. All games are bad. I'm sure it's not. You made it. That's cool. I bet it will be a good game, Mika. I believe in you. And their Kenyon says, as long as it has that 5 minutes of fun that Cakes talks about. God bless Cakes. Okay, so we want our... I'm going to check you out, Mika. That's awesome. Image size. Okay, power of 2. Let's... We can go to 256 seems rather low, but we'll try it. Okay, does that fix you? Yes, okay. Then we run the code gen that generates a source code that binds all the assets here. And then we go to my scene, what do we even call it? Combat 01 scene. Dot position equals where I don't have a good sense of where we are in the world, but let's just put it at 0 for now. Oh, one thing that I will have to do, I forgot to do this, but oh, did I? Oh, awesome. I was going to say that I forgot to put the origin at the scene origin instead of in the object's origin, but it already did, which is awesome. That happened accidentally. Because what I don't want to do is reshape everything in the scene manually. So I'll have to fix that, but I want everything to share this origin right here. So then I can just import everything at 0 and it will all map correctly. Okay, don't need, I can just take this whole line. Scale. Close. 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. Oops. I'm a big fan of the bracket scheme here. Okay, now we need to add a static mesh. And then call it, we'll put it on our tree. Okay, and then we should already have access to our tree. So where did it end up going? So we want to look at generated assets. Oh, it went in tree. I should have put it in env tree. I'm gonna fix that. Okay, so now I need to go back in and delete the other version, because I just moved it by changing its base path here. Oh, I can just do this. Okay, then end tree. Okay, I'm gonna give it the dungeon material just so I can get a quick build in so I can resolve that semicolon. Why are you doing a full build? Oh, I guess because I had checked out a different branch and there were significant change differences. Oh, and then, let's see. While that's building, I can start working on the material. Tree normal. Alright, let's see where that placed you. Oh, and then I'm going to fix that point light because I don't want a purple point light. I think that... An alien robot named Cornelius who went insane and walks around with his hands up screaming cinema nonstop. I'm really intrigued by the game idea because in your song you had talked about two people escaping and one of them being an alien and sitting on top of a bunker and staring up into space, and that was really neat. Okay. There it is. We're gonna need some tweaks here. Oh, I have this stupid thing where I have to rotate my meshes 90 degrees in Blender, and if I forget, I have to do it in the game engine. So I'll fix that Blender side, but for now, what is that point? 3. Oh, goodness. Okay. Make you big. Where is the front? I can't actually tell. Okay, that's upside down. Just want to have a good look at you. Okay, that's gonna look pretty cool, but I want to tweak out of here, selector. I want to tweak some of the settings a little bit. I really want to disable the vertex coloring or the edge coloring selectively, because sometimes I want to be able to see my I need a higher res for the base color, although at the distance it's going to be maybe I don't. There we go. I think I want to take those back a little bit. Now with the width, I think I want them back more. Okay. Let's try that. Yeah, seems a little. You know, I might actually need fewer details in the normal map. That would be wonderful if I can get away with that. And I want less green on the tree. I don't think we need that much green. Get this out of the way for the time being. There. Yeah, I might want to go one notch higher. In the actual mesh, potentially, although it's going to be really far away. But I think I want to bring the normal energy down a little bit. Oh. You get my profile image in there. That's super cool. That was an unintended consequence of my runtime texture asset loading. Where are you? There you are. Oh. Grabbing a screenshot of that so I know what changes to make for tomorrow. And then I am calling it a day here. I might stream this weekend, but more likely we'll stream again Tuesday. Gonna be wrapping up, trying to get all of the dungeon entrance stuff exported out and into the game. Will be the mission for the week, but thanks for joining the stream, everyone. Hope you all have a wonderful night. I'll see you later.